Psychologists have told us a lot about behaviour. But can we trust their findings? How do we know they're anything more than just opinion, guesswork and common sense?
Get to know reliability and validity well. Make friends with them and they'll be really good friends to you, because you can bring them into all sorts of different methods questions.
Well, reliability in psychological research refers to the consistency of a measuring test.
Supposing you meet someone who really impresses you. They're interesting, funny, they seem to like you and they're saying all the right things. But can you trust them? Is this person really as good as they seem to be?
Well, it's much the same with questions of validity in psychological research.
So studying variables is a bit like going shopping for household stuff, food, things like that. Not that interesting, but it has to be done. So we're going shopping for variables.
A variable is something that changes or varies in some way, such as an object, a characteristic or a value.
Well, that's okay for a start, but saying a variable is something that changes or varies doesn't tell us that much about it, does it? You'll need to identify different types of variables and explain what they do and link them to real studies. So operationalization is an important concept to add to the list, as you may not only be asked to identify the key variables, but also explain how they've been operationalized.
Extraneous variables are factors that influence the relationship between the variables the researcher is examining. Well, first, there are obviously differences between people, and it could be that these individual differences or participant variables are actually influencing the dependent variable.
As you know, psychology is about explaining human behavior, and reductionism is about the nature of that explanation.
So what is reductionism? Well, it's the idea that you can simplify the complexity of something by breaking it down into its component parts and seeing how they work. So in biological psychology, for example, you can understand more about how the brain works by breaking it down into the parts that seem to be involved in memory, empathy, aggression, and so on. So in many ways, reductionist explanations work really well, especially in biological psychology, but they may also have their limitations.
What the reductionist genetic explanation cannot account for is the massive increase in obesity in the last 20 years. Make sure you're not going to get tripped up by any of the technical terms. The target population is all the people who might have been studied. So we've said what sampling is. The next thing is to check out how it's done.
One way of doing this you'll probably know is random sampling, where every member of the target population has an equal chance of being selected. So it's the same principle as the lottery.
Another type of probability sampling you need to make sure you know is stratified sampling.
In stratified sampling, selection isn't just left to chance, it's manipulated to try to ensure a better reflection of the target population.